Welcome to Versus. This new video series is all about taking on popular theists, atheists, and YouTube personalities. No one is immune from criticism. This week, I take MrRepzion to task on his irrational defense for eating animals and his criticism of vegans. For those who may not know, MrRepzion is a popular atheist vlogger who creates video content on a wide range of topics, including but not limited to video games, personal advice, movie reviews, and religion. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, check out the link in the description. Without any further ado, now on with the show.
I just like to say that I like beef, I like my bacon, I like my meat. And for you to sit there and tell me that I am somehow immoral due to me not sharing your same belief regarding veganism and meat, I find that rather insulting.
This popular, albeit entirely irrational defense for eating animals is devoid of any higher level reasoning. Liking something doesn't in any way validate the action, any more than liking to beat up children justifies further child abuse. Before viewers get angry at my comparison, I am not suggesting that beating up children is equal to eating animals. You will find that I often try to use human examples to correlate with, in order for an argument to be more clearly explained and understood. We have a natural bias towards other humans, and so if we find something morally objectionable done to humans, yet perfectly acceptable when similarly performed to non-human animals, and we agree that we should treat like cases alike, then further investigation of our justifications should be conducted, which could possibly lead to a modification of our behavior.
Rather, I get upset when someone tries to tell me that I am not a moral person simply because I eat meat, or that you are morally superior to me because you do eat meat.
MrRepzion claims that at least some vegans hold to the notion that if you aren't a vegan, you are immoral, and that he objects to being identified as such. I can understand that, and I would fully agree with him and support him if veganism held no real arguments based on demonstrable facts. If veganism was no better than appeals to emotion and unscientific claims of faith, then I wouldn't be a vegan, and I would not expect any rational, skeptically minded person to be persuaded. Veganism does have evidence supporting its claims of animal sentience, negative environmental, health, and social impacts. To deny what is readily available is to be closed-minded and irrational. A person is not immoral just because they do not hold a set of beliefs that others do. A person is immoral when their action or inaction brings about the suffering and/or death of sentient beings and can be easily avoided. When we examine our options, motivations, and consequences, we can determine what is detrimental to others, irrespective of species, and make decisions based upon reason and evidence. If we choose to ignore issues and continue to engage in such destructive habits, we ought to be mature enough to own up to the fact that we are acting irrationally and immorally and accept that others will object, irrespective of how this may upset us. Religious viewers of my videos often comment on how insulted they feel when I critique their irrational religious beliefs and tenets, yet my atheistic fans would not have me stop because they recognize that feeling upset or insulted is not an indicator of misinformation or deceit. Sometimes truth hurts because we become aware that what we held as true is not, and we don't like to think that we are mistaken and causing harm to others. It is easier to deny a real issue than to admit it and change.
Like I said in the start of the video, I don't mind if you're a vegan. I respect that belief. But the moment you start forcing your belief upon me is the moment where I will lift my middle finger up to you and I will tell you some very harsh words.
Another popular critique of veganism is this supposed use of force. MrRepzion's video, from which these clips were extracted, is a response to a video by a vegan who explicitly states that her audience is other vegans. So, MrRepzion, not a vegan, voluntarily watched and responded to a video made with a different audience in mind, and felt that vegan beliefs were being forced upon him. I have never heard of any vegan ever kidnapping, tying down, and forcing anyone to do anything. This is clearly a straw man argument and has no basis in reality. If you couldn't care less about a particular topic, then don't watch it. If you willingly watch, engage, and disagree, Present reasonable arguments supporting your objection.
In fact, it makes me want to eat meat more and then eat meat and then rub it in your face that I'm eating meat and you're not.
So rather than engage in a mature manner, you are so driven to an emotional fervor that you would childishly mock and belittle those who you disagree with. This "I'll show you" attitude is evidence of someone who has no rational defense for their position and lashes out to hurt others. It's akin to spewing racist and homophobic slurs to someone who actively opposes both.
You seem to think that if everybody in the entire world went vegan, somehow, which would never happen. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but the entire world is not going to go vegan. It's just not going to happen.
Unless you are claiming to be a prophetic individual who can see into the future, which would require overwhelming evidence never before seen, you cannot defend a position that something possible will never happen. It is possible the large majority of the human race will be vegan one day, however unlikely that may look from our position in a world where it's not currently the case. From the perspective of a slave in the 1st century, it may seem highly improbable that the world would ever be free of human slavery, yet we now live in a world which nobody openly supports or endorses it. We fight to end institutions of destruction and misery in the human context, all the while never fully succeeding, but none would seriously argue that we should stop working towards a slave, racist, homophobic, and sexist-free world.
Because what would happen to all the domesticated animals? What would happen to all animals in general if we never, ever killed an animal and everybody went vegan?
Another common argument that lacks any teeth, and one I have covered in another video, but I will reiterate briefly. Vegans do not hold to the notion that the entire world would wake up one morning and en masse change their diet and lifestyle to a vegan one. If veganism is one day held by the majority, it will happen through a long process in which it will slowly grow, while the non-vegan population will lose members. As the demand for animal products decreases, so too would the need to breed ever more animals into existence. With fewer and fewer meat eaters, there would naturally be fewer domesticated animals. It's simple economics. Supply equals demand.
But the biggest problem here is that you think that humanity would be better if everybody went vegan. No, it wouldn't. In fact, I think society as a whole, the entire world, would start to degrade and society would start to crumble because we're not eating meat.
MrRepzion seriously holds to the idea that if the whole world abstained from directly and unnecessarily harming other sentient beings, we would be led into economic and social Armageddon? Are you kidding me? How would the end of exploitation and systematic slaughter of billions of animals lead to anything but a better, kinder, and healthier world? Sure, if you posit a planet that would wake up one morning and become vegan, we would be in a bit of a pickle. But there is zero chance of such a dramatic shift occurring, as has already been previously addressed. With a move towards a greater vegan population, more industry would exist to cater our changing needs, and less towards the ways of old. No one is seriously arguing or expecting an immediate societal shift never before seen in any social justice issue. When you argue a position that no one holds, you can be sure that you are propping up a straw man.
Most of all, do you know how many thousands upon thousands of people would die? I mean, already in other countries and other places, people are dying of starvation. But to make it so all people are vegans, more people would die by not eating any type of animal.
Yet again, no one is arguing or expecting an instantaneous shift to veganism on a global scale. There are many people in developing countries that depend on animals for their survival, and I cannot with my first world privilege condemn them for their real needs. What I strive for is a world in which the able can assist those who have without. I strive to improve the conditions and livelihoods of those who have little and encourage those who are in a position to change to make the best possible decisions that best impact the world and the inhabitants of it. To argue that because some people have a real need to eat and use animals due to their economic and environmental situations, therefore everyone has the same excuse, is an absurd argument lacking any defense. There have been cases in which stranded lifeboat survivors murdered one of their own so that the group could survive. And while we understand that this might have been necessary, no one is arguing that therefore it's okay to kill another human when no real need is at hand.
There would be no way to support an entire world all of veganism because number one, veganism is really expensive.
Veganism is not and does not need to be expensive. There are a few things I would like to point out. A. In more affluent and economically stable countries, meat and dairy is heavily subsidized by the governments and so are artificially inexpensive, while most vegan foods are not the recipients of such cost-cutting measures. B. The vegan population tends to be relatively small, and so the companies that make prepared vegan foods tend to be smaller in size, with higher production costs and lower sales, resulting in an overall higher cost for the consumer. With an increase in the vegan population, companies would make more money, have more competition, and drive costs and prices down. C. In developing countries, people often own their own animals rather than buy them because the cost would otherwise make meat unattainable. D. In developing countries, the cheapest purchasable items are typically vegan. I have personally traveled to small remote communities in India and have witnessed markets full of locally grown legumes, fruits, and vegetables at incredibly low cost. While I have not read it myself, I have heard great things about it. Check out Eat Vegan on $4 a day.
If I wanted to be a vegan, I could not afford it. It is frickin' expensive. You go to the grocery store, all the different products are almost like double or triple the same amount of the milk is not milk, but whatever vegans, I don't even know what all the vegans eat and drink and whatever, but everything in the vegan category of food is really a lot more expensive, and I could not afford to be a vegan.
What I find telling in this clip is that MrRepzion holds strong opinions about how expensive vegan food is, yet in the same breath admits that he doesn't know what vegans eat. So how is it that you know it's impractically expensive when you don't even know what we consume? I'm not sure what stores you've been shopping at, but soy, almond, hemp, and rice milks are in no way up to 10 times more expensive than non-vegan equivalents. Cow's milk in Canada costs anywhere from $1.32 a liter to $2.92 a liter, while the almond milk I buy on a regular basis costs me $1.99 to $2.49 a liter. If this is still too costly, you can easily make your own almond milk at home and substantially reduce the cost even further. I could go through a long list of food items and compare the costs and show you that they are comparable, even with current market demands. Perhaps before holding such strong views, it would be prudent for you to take a moment to confirm if they are in fact true.
And even if I could afford it, I wouldn't, because number one, I have no desire to be a vegan, and I like my meat. I like my bacon.
We have now come full circle. MrRepzion presented his arguments and at the end of it admits that even if he could afford to be vegan, which he clearly can, he would not do so because he has no desire to be vegan and likes his meat. To this I say, go back in this video to the very beginning, where I address the arguments from liking something, therefore it's okay. If you present arguments that are ultimately meaningless, because you built your house of cards on a shaky foundation of palate pleasure, why even bother with them? If all that matters to you is your continued entertainment, irrespective of the consequences to others, then why concoct other poor arguments? I suspect I know the reason. Deep down, you realize that you don't have a valid moral argument, and you don't want to change. You don't have to change if you don't want to. And no vegan will ever force you to, but admit that you lack any rational moral justifications for your choices. Before I round out this video, I would like to give a shout out to a fellow YouTuber who has been of great assistance with some technical animation issues I've been having. Please check out and subscribe to Simon Ubstell's channel Tokyo Productions. He does absolutely stellar tutorials on Final Cut Pro and Apple Motion. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, show your support by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel here. Subscribers get notified the moment a new video is uploaded onto YouTube. Also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus pages. All links are in the description below. Lastly, check out my channel where you can find all my other video series, debates, and lectures.